Hey everybody, it's Allie, the Canine Nutritionist from PadfootPoodles and Pals, and we are live. Dun, 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 dun. So I am a few minutes early, but I did that on purpose because we did not get a whole lot of questions for today's live session, so I wanted to jump onto the Facebook group here and answer some of the questions that people have had lately. And then as people join, right, they'll ask questions. So first question that we've got is it possible that my 5-month-old Cavachon has diarrhea caused by watermelon? She said that it was a little piece. Hi, Lisa. So the answer is yes. Watermelon can cause diarrhea. I don't know if you remember, I think it was like the early 80s, there was like a watermelon diet, right, that people actually did. And that was one of the biggest complaints. So if you're trying to incorporate more fresh food into your dog's diet, first of all, awesome. Second of all, you may not want to start with fruit. Hey, Lisa, thank you for commenting. Okay, good. Now I know my comments are working. Okay, great. So if you're trying to incorporate more fresh food into your dog's diet, fruit is probably not the best place to start. Now, having said that, you can give dogs watermelon, and it's super hydrating, obviously, because it's mostly liquid. So it's a good option. You just want to take into consideration the sugar amount of sugar that's in it. So watermelon, cantaloupe, all the melons really, it's fiber, water, and fructose, right? So if your dog is not used to consuming, fruits, sugary stuff, especially for a puppy, this one's only 5 months old, it can be a little bit jarring to their system, depending on how big the piece was. She said it was a little piece, but even that could be enough to spiral them into a cycle of diarrhea. So I recommend starting out with vegetables. If you're going to start adding more fresh, vegetables have a lot higher fiber content, and as you increase your dog's microbiome, right, then you can start to incorporate more and more in. But I think people get excited sometimes and they start adding a lot of stuff or a lot of different things, and that can also cause digestive upset. So the key, especially with a puppy, is to start out slow and with small pieces. So you have to remember they've only probably been exposed to 2 different foods in their lifetime, right? 5 months old is not very old at all. So they had their mother's milk, then they were more than likely weaned to a kibble, right? And then they've probably been on that for a while. So it can be very jarring to their system. Just like if you or I were to travel abroad, try some completely new foreign food, right? It may cause digestive upset because it's not something that we're used to consuming. So don't give up. Try it out with veggies, build up that microbiome, and then kind of go from there. Okay, so people are joining. Hello, happy Friday. If you guys have a question, make sure you pop them down in the comments for me. I didn't have any questions for this specific episode, so I'm just going through and answering people's questions from in the group. So if there's some topic specifically that you'd like to cover, just drop it down in the comments for me. Okay, so somebody else asked, let's see, her dog, the belly is red along with the paws and the ears. So she was concerned about the food she was feeding. And when I asked her which food she was feeding, she was awesome enough to give me an ingredients list. And what's problematic about a lot of foods that are on the market, kibble especially, is that they have way too many grains, right? While grains are not the enemy, if your dog is not allergic to them, there is absolutely zero reason for there to be more than 3. Ideally, we'd like for there to only be 1, right? But, you know, in the market today, that's not always feasible. Or it may not be feasible in your budget. So, when I was looking at her food, the ingredients were brown rice, white rice, we're doubling up on rice, oatmeal, barley, and then at the top of the list was yeast. Now they add yeast to meet certain requirements for B vitamins, and that's fine, but I don't like to see it so high up in the list. So that's problematic. This food also contained grain sorghum, so that's a problem. So there's just way too many in the food. So if your dog is sensitive to grains, a lot of times you'll notice that their belly will be red, their feet, right? The skin in between their toes, very red, ears, lots of yeast infections, ear infections. That can be problematic. It could also be related to the protein, but this one is just salmon, so that would be kind of unlikely, right? Salmon is not as high up on the list as far as allergy proteins go. So, hey guys, more people are joining. Hello. If you have questions, just drop them down in the comments for me, because I am just going through the Facebook posts and answering different questions, because we didn't get a lot of questions for this episode. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next one. Let's see, somebody was asking about a supplement that they could give their dog. It's an older dog showing signs of aging. If you're looking for something that has fantastic ingredients and it won't be a pain to get your dog to eat it, I highly recommend the Nuvet Multivitamin. They also have a joint supplement, which I use for my super senior Pomeranian. I'm sure you guys have seen me post pictures of him. And it makes a huge, huge difference. So I'm definitely a big fan of that. She's looking for something a little bit cheaper. And the problem with supplements and going cheaper is you're better off just adding fresh food. Because the cheaper the supplement, the more garbage ingredients they're going to have, and the more you're really just going to be wasting your money. It's more likely to cause problems than it is to actually be helpful. Plus, where are those ingredients coming from, right? You have to remember that these supplements are not regulated. So they can put whatever they want, you know, into the supplement, and it can become problematic, especially if your dog has allergies, because they have a tendency to pump them full of yeast and chicken products, chicken byproducts. So it's very, very important that you read the label, and just remember, the cheaper you go, the lower quality it's going to be. And if, you know, you're looking, she was mentioning in the $40 range, then if Nuvet is not an option for you, or I know in some countries it's not an option, you know, you'd be better off just incorporating some fresh food into the diet, right? So your dog's actually getting the nutrients. Hello, everybody. We've got more people joining. So if you have a question, just drop it down in the comments for me. I am just going through here. Okay, so Lori actually posted today, and she had a phenomenal question. And Lori, if you end up watching this, I love you for this. So she was looking in the files, because for those of you who are new, in the files section of our Facebook group, I have listed free, complete and balanced recipes that you can use to make food for your dog. and she wanted to know more about the process of actually making the food. Now, in our post, I linked a couple of videos that I've made where I show myself making the food and giving tips and tricks on, you know, some ways that you can, you know, save space in your freezer and things like that. But specifically, she was wondering, do you just put it all in a food processor and blend it together? And the answer to that is kind of twofold. So if you are doing a raw recipe, which we have raw and cooked in the files, you really want to make it as easy as possible for yourself. If you're not feeding a teeny tiny toy breed puppy or an older dog that might be missing teeth, right? As much as you can leave some of those meats and organs that are listed in the ingredients whole, right? Maybe chop them up, but not necessarily blend them. You're better off for your dog. So one of the challenges with kibble is that it teaches dogs to inhale their food, right? They're not really chewing it up. Whereas when you give a dog like a raw meaty bone or a home-cooked meal, they're actually chewing it up. So if you're not dealing with, you know, some sort of outlier reason to make the food mush, if you can, keep some of those meat items chunky, right? Encourage your dog to chew them up. It'll help with digestion as well. If you're doing one of the recipes that has raw meaty bones in it, please do not put those in your blender. You will absolutely fry your blender. Not a good idea. And then she was asking about keep it refrigerated or package and freeze. So if you are making a big batch of food, like many of the recipes are for, you know, just a couple of days, and then some of them are like big batch recipes. If you're making a big batch, wow, that was a big thunder just then. Oh, it's probably gonna start raining. It's because it's been so hot here. It's just like sweltering. So if you're making a big batch of food, which I highly recommend, it will save you time in the long run. Then what I like to do is I make a big batch, I portion them out into Ziploc bags, I smush them flat, right? So your bag is flat, and that way it's very easy to stack it in your freezer and not take up a lot of space. And then when you're ready for the next day's food, right, you portion them out into each bag. When you're ready for the next day's food, you pull it out of the freezer like the night before and defrost it. And also keeping the bag flat will help it defrost faster. So if you're like me and sometimes you forget to defrost it, you can defrost it very quickly, right? And then feed your dogs so they don't become angry with you. So yeah, but I don't recommend that you keep it in the fridge for more than 3 days, just because, you know, it's gonna start growing bacteria and stuff like that. I don't recommend that for humans either. So we'll treat our dogs the same. Even though their system is a little bit tougher, 3 days is kind of my rule with food. So if you're making food for 3 days at a time, totally fine. Hey guys, okay, so we've had a bunch of people join. If you guys have questions, drop it down in the comments for me. I'm just going through and answering questions that people have posted in the group. So, okay, so let's go down to the next one. Okay, so somebody posted these natural chews, and they are tripe twists. That's like a tripe tongue twister. Tripe twists and tracheas. That's like a triple threat right there. Okay, tripe twists and tracheas. I would just like for all of you to try to say that 5 times fast. So let's start with the tripe. Tripe is phenomenal. It's very, very good for your dog. Be ready. It's going to stink. And I do not say that lightly. I am telling you, they smell nasty. If your dog is like mine and they want to take their nastiest chews and go take them onto your bed or onto your couch or your favorite chair, you give it to them in a crate, because they smell gross. I'm just warning you. If you ever get tripe in a can, bleh, bleh, it's bad. It's really bad. But dogs love it. And the nutrition that it packs is like a powerhouse. So if you can stand it, I highly recommend it. Now, as far as these twists go, they are like a dehydrated, twisty kind of chew. And if you have a small dog, these that she got appear to be at least 6 inches long. You may want to start out with just letting them have a half of one. And when I say that, I don't mean that I want you to cut it. What I want you to do is just let them eat halfway through it and then take it from them. So, hey, Jacqueline's here. Hi. So glad you could make it. So, yeah. If you have a bigger dog, you know, like 50 pounds, you could probably get away with giving them a whole 6-inch one to begin with. The reason why I mention this is because they can be rich. And the last thing you want to do is have your dog be super excited about this treat, right? And then you end up cleaning up diarrhea. Nobody loves that. Tracheas, one of my favorites. It's so good. I like to get them in bulk when they're on sale and fill them up either with homemade food or whatever dog safe vegetables, fruits, you know, a little bit of cottage cheese, right? Fill them up, wrap them up in wax paper, put them in the freezer. It will keep your dog entertained for a very, very long time. They're phenomenal. So I'm a huge fan of tracheas. And if you're nervous when it comes to things like tracheas or raw meaty bones and you're looking for a guide on how to pick the right size, I have multiple guides that are in the file section of the group. And you can go based on your dog's size, what are some good bones and treat options for them. Okay, Jacqueline said, are Vital Ascensions freeze-dried minnows as good as fresh tinned sardines? That's a very good question. So, it's hard to say, and here's why. I'm a big fan of moisture. Huge fan of moisture. So, for me, a fresh tinned sardine, especially if it's in water and not in oil, is always going to be better than a dehydrated minnow. Are they both excellent choices? Yes. And I will tell you, the freeze-dried minnows, if you would like to save money, I highly, highly recommend you find an ethnic grocery store near you, or maybe even Amazon, and purchase dried minnows or dried fish. There's a couple different varieties that are actually for people. I want you to know the sky just opened up and it is pouring down rain and the sun is out. Oh, you know there's going to be a gorgeous rainbow out there. Okay, I'm sorry. Easily distracted. So, they're both great options. If you want to save money, because those little bags of minnows that they have for pets, they make them for dogs and cats, super expensive. You could get a big, huge bag, either online or at an ethnic grocery store, and it will last you so long. So if you like to give those to your dog, I highly recommend that you do that. But sardines are always a good option because they're high in omegas, right? They're smelly, dogs love them. Sometimes it can be challenging to find them packed in water. A lot of times you'll find them either packed in oil or other sauces. But the last time I checked, and I have not bought any recently, but the last time I checked, they had them at Walmart, packed in water, and they're pretty cheap. So that might be a good option for you. But that was a great question. Thank you for that. Okay. Just keep on rolling. Okay. So I wanted to talk about a post from one of our members where she made one of the recipes from the files, and she was concerned that because she had only done half of the recipe, that it looked like there were too many greens in the recipe. And this specific recipe calls for dandelion greens, which I know a lot of people have a tough time finding when they're out of season. Not all grocery stores carry them. You can get the dandelion greens powder, not the root, dandelion greens powder on Amazon. So that is a good substitution. So anyway, she made the food. She cut the recipe in half. And then she was concerned because it looked very, very green. And she did fantastic. And I know that sometimes when we're used to looking at kibble, right, it's always this brown or brownish red color, right? And then when we look at making these recipes and they're very green and meaty, it can be a little bit jarring. And that's okay. And one of the things that I wanted to mention specifically about her post is, if you're following one of the recipes, first of all, you are freaking awesome. You are taking a step in the right direction. Even if you're just using it as a topper, even if you're using it in 50-50, right? 50% kibble, 50% fresh food, you are freaking amazing. Do not beat yourself up over the details. And that was one of the things that I had mentioned in her post. I said, you're doing great. Even if you had put too many greens in there, it still would have been okay. So I know that myself especially, and a lot of other pet professionals, have a tendency to really drive home that point of, you need to be using a complete and balanced recipe. It's because we're just looking out for you, right? There are a lot of people joining our group every day that are just putting together random ingredients, right? Because you don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. And in my group, we're all about doing better. What can you do to do better? And let's do that. Wherever that fits in your budget, wherever that fits in your busy schedule, right? Then that's what we do. If that means that you can't do fresh food, but you're going to upgrade their treats. So instead of getting, pepperoni, which please don't ever look at the ingredients on those, it will make you cry. But let's say you have been giving your dog those and you've decided, well, instead of doing that, I'm going to get them a single ingredient treat, like a dehydrated chicken, right? Or a freeze-dried chicken. Or, like Jacqueline mentioned earlier, I'm going to upgrade them to these freeze-dried minnows, right? That is a huge step in the right direction. So I don't want you guys to get bogged down in thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not doing it perfectly. It's okay. I guarantee you, your dog is going to be okay. Do you know why? I'm going to tell you why. You don't even have to wonder. You don't have to go to an episode 2, right? There's no part 2. I'm going to tell you right now. The reason why your dog is going to be okay if you make a recipe and it's not 100% perfect is because your dog licks their own butt. They eat poop, right? Your dog's gonna be okay if you put too many greens in the recipe, right? Like, and I get it because I love the passion that pet parents have. And I remember the first time that I made a recipe, and I remember that anxiety and weighing everything out and going, oh my gosh, what if they don't have enough of this nutrient, or they didn't have beef liver at the store, they only had chicken liver, what am I going to do now, right? I remember all those feelings. I get it. Just take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Every step in the right direction gets you further down that nutritional journey. And that's what I tell people. It's not a destination, you're on a journey. And if you stick with me, then we're on the journey together, right? So anyway, I just wanted to say, taking small steps, doing what you can is fantastic. So don't beat yourself up. Okay, we got a couple of comments. Okay. Jacqueline said, thank you so much. You are a doggy angel. Thank you. I try to do what I can. Okay, Kelly commented. She said, love, love, love your info. Thank you. If someone wanted to become a pet nutritionist, where would you recommend they start? That is a very good question. So it's kind of twofold. So I'll cover both bases. If you are located outside of the US, then you're going to want to look and see what colleges offer a certification program in nutrition, right? For animal nutrition. Sometimes it's specifically pet nutrition, right? Cats and dogs. Sometimes cats and dogs get roped into feed animals, right? So you can take a look into that. And if you're in the US, we have less of the college-bound options, and there are quite a few programs that you can sign up for. And if you would like a list of those, it's a document that I have. I can absolutely supply that to you. Just send me a private message. That way, you know, you can kind of look and see what's in your budget. I will say it is like going to school. It's not for the faint of heart. Some of the programs can be pricey, and some programs are better than others. So that's why I like to have those conversations one-on-one, because then I can really gauge what you're looking for. Now, having said all of that, if you're looking for a more affordable option, and it's still by no means cheap, but a more affordable option, and you're not necessarily wanting to be a professional, but you're wanting to increase your knowledge, there are a couple of programs that are available. Let me see if I can pull one up here. I want to say, so I know Dog Dad, if you follow him on YouTube, he has a program that is phenomenal. I don't know how much it cost, so you'll have to take a look at that. I believe Perfectly Rawsome has a program, and then Dogs Naturally magazine, they also have a program, which is very good. I've done that one. But yeah, if you're just looking to increase your knowledge just for your own sake, then you can definitely do one of those. I know with Dog Dad, he does programs where he actually teaches you how to create a recipe on your own, which can be great. So, and I love him. He's fantastic. Hey, Crystal's here. Hi, Crystal. Okay. Ashley said, yes, I would love to do it as well as certify as a pet nutritionist. Okay. Yeah. Then you're definitely going to want to look at not only these programs, maybe just to get you started, but also some of the bigger programs. Some of them you can do in a year. Some of them take 2 years. There's a couple that have advanced levels. So there's like, you know, Nutrition 101, and then there's the advanced course. So yeah, definitely send me a private message and I'll get you that list. Side note, I just want to be 100% transparent. You cannot make a living wage being a nutritionist, a pet nutritionist anyway. I just want to throw that out there because I know I've had quite a few young people contact me and they're super excited and they're like, I love this, I'm passionate about it. You cannot make a living wage, right? I have a regular full-time job. I do this because I'm passionate about it. So I just want to throw that out there for people, because I feel like it's important, especially nowadays. So yeah. Okay, great. Those were great questions. You guys are awesome. Okay. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Da, 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 da. What questions do we have? Okay, so this one was a really good question. This individual was asking about weaning adult dogs off of regular flea and tick and heartworm preventions. This can be very challenging depending on where you're located. So I'll give you guys my little flea and tick spiel. And if you'd like more information about this, then I would definitely check out the video that Dr. Judy Morgan did, because she's an actual veterinarian and she goes into it in depth. I'm going to give you the short and condensed version because, again, we're not here for a part 2, right? We're going to do it now. So what she recommends and what I do, because I am in a very high-risk area, fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, heartworm, it's a hot mess here. What I do is I use Sentinel, which is a not a natural product, right? You get it from your vet. It has risks, so please keep that in mind. But the latest studies actually show that these products, like Sentinel, are viable in the dog system and work more than 30 days, right? Because they give you the little thing and you give it to them once a month. Well, it actually works longer than that. Just like the latest studies show that all of these vaccines that they keep pumping into dogs every year for boosters are not necessary. These vaccines are lasting anywhere from 4 to 9 years. So what we do is we only give preventative in the months that we're at high risk. And we space it out every 60 days. So that way, we're not constantly pumping them full of chemicals, but also not putting them at higher risk, especially for the heartworm part. So, but it's definitely tough. If you are in an area that's not high risk, then you could absolutely just use natural products, and be able to mitigate any lingering fleas that may be in the area. Don't forget, I like to get my Wondercide off of Chewy.com. There are some great options on there. I believe Cedarside, Wondercide, and there's one other brand I can't think of right now. They have a yard treatment that's completely natural, and it's just herbs, right, that keep the bugs away. And you can spray down the outside of your yard. You can spray where your dogs actually go. And what I like to do is spray everything down, spray a perimeter around, and then let it dry right before I let the dogs out there. So it's definitely an option, but it really just depends on where you're located. Okay. All right. Gonna keep on going. Ooh, we got a question. Okay, hang on. Okay, Crystal says, I live in Texas. Right. You're feeling the heat too, aren't you? Which is hot and humid. Yes, it is. I know Ozzy has fleas because I took one off him before, but I don't know when I should be time to give a medicine. So if he's got a flea, remember, if there's 1, there's 10. And if there's 10, there's 20. You're just not seeing them. Especially if your dogs are very fluffy, like Crystal's. I've been so scared because of the side effects. So it is scary because of the side effects. And it's definitely something that you want to look into, but you also don't want fleas, right? I mean, nobody here likes bugs, and your dog doesn't like it either. So I would say that give it a shot, right? Again, I use the Sentinel. It does have side effects, right? There is a risk, but it is the lowest risk on the market. So, yeah, I mean, you can try using natural products first and see if that works. Don't forget that if you're treating for fleas, you need to not only be treating your dog, but their bedding, your couches, your chairs, anywhere where the dog goes, that there could potentially be a flea. So wash them, treat their bedding, wash everything, spray down furniture, right? Whatever you have to do. But yeah, I completely understand. And side effects are scary, right? I mean, you see all the videos that people post. I always feel so bad for them, where their dogs are having seizures. It can be really heart-wrenching. So as pet parents, we're kind of stuck in this rock and a hard place. Like, do you use natural products and hope that it works? What if it's not working? I do see that, especially for people in high-risk areas like Texas. People are using all sorts of natural products and it's not working, right? And they're panicking. So, is Sentinel just for heartworm, or do they also... It's an all-in-one. And if you do the Sentinel Plus, that also has a dewormer in it, but that's unnecessary, again, if your dog's not at risk. So, Crystal said, right, it's so scary knowing they have fleas because of what it can lead to. High risk area, Florida. Yes, Alabama. Yeah. Yeah, we're all in a high risk area. So it's challenging. You just have to do the best that you can. When my dogs go out, I spray them down with neem spray. And if you're not familiar with that, it's N-E-E-M, as in Nancy, neem. It smells very strong. The dogs hate it. As soon as they see me pick it up, they're like, run for the hills, Mom's got the spray. Wonderside has some great options that the dogs prefer, but I only buy that when it's on sale. And like I said, we do the Sentinel once every 60 days. So you just have to know the risks and then make an informed decision. For me, because we have like 3 dog beds in every room and we have multiple dogs and our dogs sleep in the bed with us, like a flea infestation would cost more money and be more problematic, right, than trying to mitigate it with medicine. So it can definitely be challenging. Crystal said, we use Wonderside spray for when it's time to go outside. Yes, that's a great option. I like their yard treatment spray as well. You like hook it up to the hose and spray down the yard. That can help a lot too. So great. Okay, we've had some more people join. So if you guys have questions, just stick them in the comments for me. We've had some awesome ones tonight. Okay. So one of our group members posted and said, I started making some homemade dog treats. Excellent. The recipe calls for rice flour, applesauce without sweetener added, and natural peanut butter. Is the rice flour the best? So if your dog is not sensitive to rice, then rice flour is perfectly fine. Having said that, I'm not a huge fan of peanut butter because peanut butter is problematic. In general, I think it's the highest risk of contamination for mycotoxins because of the mold that grows on peanut butter. course, my battery's gonna run low now because that's perfect timing. Sorry about that. So I'm not really a fan of the peanut butter part of this recipe. I'm not so much worried about the rice flour if your dog is not sensitive to rice. But the other thing that I would like to say is I've been seeing a huge influx, especially on TikTok, of baked homemade treats for dogs. And while making a baked treat for your dog to have sometimes, or you're going to do a small batch and then do something different, perfectly fine. But I do not recommend that you have them as a consistent treat all the time. Think about it like a sugary cereal. And the whole reason why we want to move towards our treats being, higher quality is because most of, the people who are feeding their dogs are feeding kibble. So they're already getting sugary cereal. We don't need to make a treat on top of it that's also sugary cereal, right? It's completely devoid of moisture. So while this is perfectly fine, and again, I bake treats for my dogs sometimes. I'll make a small batch. They'll have them for a while. We'll use them as training treats, and then we move on to something else. Like I'll get my dehydrator out and, get chicken on sale and make dehydrated chicken strips, jerky. So while this is okay, I don't recommend you do it all the time. Have it be a sometimes treat, right? You see a recipe, you try it out, great. We go back to whatever other treats and then come back around and do another one again, right? So I know that some people can get caught in that rut of constantly giving biscuits. Don't do that. Okay. Jacqueline said, when my palm gets occasional upset tummy, the vet said to give a bland diet of plain chicken breast and rice, which seems to work, but I wonder if there's something better. He gets plain canned pumpkin every day. Yes. So, I am of the opinion that if the food didn't cause the problem, don't change the food, right? And this is always the go-to for vets. It's like rice and chicken. Oh no, soft stool, rice and chicken, right? Rice can be inflammatory, so we don't want to be given it all the time. And if you're trying to fill up a bowl, especially if you have a large dog and you're doing rice and chicken, it's gonna be half rice and half chicken. That's a lot, right? So I am a big fan of a single protein that the dog is used to eating and pumpkin instead of rice, if you're going to change the food at all. And here's the thing, you don't have to. Perfect example, I was just working with a client the other day. Their dog ate deer poop from outside. Of course, they got diarrhea. I said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We are going to fast this adult dog for 24 hours, give them as much broth, bone broth, low sodium, as they want. We'll just give them lots of broth, make sure they have access to, lots of water. We're just going to flush the system, and then we're going to try again tomorrow, after that 24 hours, to reintroduce the food that they were already on. Many times what can happen is your dog gets into something outside, or they have a stressful event, like a bunch of family came over, we had a birthday party, we were loud, we were partying, woo, woo, right? And the dog's like, what is happening? Why is everybody here? I have to say hi to everybody, right? Stresses their system. Now we've got diarrhea. So what people have a tendency to do is go, oh no, diarrhea. And then they switch them to chicken and rice. And then the chicken and rice actually perpetuates the diarrhea, or in some cases makes it worse. But you don't know that that's what you're doing, right? Because you're just doing what your vet told you to do. And rice can be a good binder, right? So that was how the whole thing started. It was like, okay, well, chicken is bland, and so that'll be fine. And then we'll just add this binder in here so it'll bind up, right, and create solid poo. But it can be problematic if you're doing that for a few days. Now, some dogs are not sensitive to chicken, they're not sensitive to rice, and it works for them. And for those dogs, I say, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But like for my dogs, they are used to having beef. So if I switch them to chicken and rice, I'm going to cause diarrhea, right? It's going to make everything worse. So what I would do is I would do beef and pumpkin, right? When my dogs are on fish, if somebody gets diarrhea, okay, we're going to fast for a day. We're just going to fast everybody because I have all adult dogs. We're going to fast for a day. We're going to have lots of bone broth. We're going to have lots of water. We're going to take it easy. And we're going to try again tomorrow and see if just their normal food is okay, if their system is ready. So I think that a lot of times people jump the gun to switching them to chicken and rice. So pumpkin, always a good option. Again, that's your binder, right? That's the fiber. If you can get an actual pumpkin and roast it yourself, then that would be better because it's got a higher fiber content than canned pumpkin. Excuse me. So yeah, and I do have a video on diarrhea that gives you lots of options, different options on supplements that you can add to their food to help them, because a big thing that you're going to want to do is rebuild that intestinal lining, right? Not to be gross, but when they have diarrhea, right, that's one of the first things that they lose, which can then make it hard for them to get back on track. And slippery elm powder is great at rebuilding that intestinal lining. This is disconnected. Are we back? Okay. I think we're back. All right. I'm going to have to jump off of here soon because my phone's dying on me, and I'm so sorry about that. But I have loved talking to you guys today. You guys have had some really great questions. Okay. Crystal says, what bone broth do you use when you fast them because of diarrhea? Okay, so I am old school. I make my own broth for me to use. Whenever I cook something or I'm buying something at the store, if I have an option to get it with a bone, I will. And a lot of times I'll get chicken necks, chicken feet, anything with a bone that's on sale or clearanced out, I will buy it up. A lot of times if you can find like a local butcher shop and make friends with them, sometimes you can get bones on the side. They'll like hook you up. So just throwing that out there as an option. I need to find somebody local to me so that I can get the bone hookup. But yeah, I make my own, and I have a video on how to do that. So what I do is I make bone broth essentially as my own cooking broth, and I don't add any onions to it. I'll do, you know, the bones, of course, celery, carrots, like all of those things that you get while you're meal prepping and things like that. I will keep all of that, with the exception of the onions. And I use that to make my broth. I'll do an updated video for you guys the next time I make broth, because I'm actually getting low. So you can see what I'm doing. But as long as you leave the onions out, then the broth is perfectly good for human consumption, right? And you can use it for your dogs. So you can can it, you can freeze it, right, in cubes, and then defrost it as needed. You can store some of it in the fridge, right? It doesn't have preservatives though, so just keep that in mind. You can't keep it in the fridge forever. Okay, great. That was a great question. Jacqueline says, Romeo thanks you too. Oh, you have to post pictures of Romeo. You guys are always like, hey, my dog says thank you. And I'm like, where? I don't see your dog. I need you to post them. Post pictures. Okay? You guys are killing me. I love you so much. I want to see your dog. I get to see your little icons, right, on Facebook, but I need to see your dog. Right? I'm that friend that shows up to the party to play with the owner's dog. Okay, that's me. That's me. I love you. I love you so much. Show me the dog. You know, it's like, show me the money. No, show me the dog. Okay. All right, guys. My phone is so angry with me, it's gonna die. I super appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. I hope you had a fantastic time while you were here. If you missed the beginning of the video, do not worry. I re-upload to YouTube so you can let it play and listen to all the fun that we had without you, because you should have been here. I like to let these type of videos play while I'm doing laundry or doing the dishes, because then you don't really have to watch what's going on, but you can still hear everything. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Jacqueline. We're going to keep doing these live sessions. So if you had questions, but you joined late, or you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, no worries. You can catch me in the next video. And don't forget, be kind, rewind.